Close your eyes for a second and picture Thursday night. Bright lights, the Dolphins crowd buzzing, the Bills methodically moving the chains. Josh Allen takes a hit from Jordan Brooks, a flag flies, Buffalo keeps the drive alive, and in the microsecond after, the cameras catch it, a quick finger gun motion from Allen. It lasts a beat on the broadcast, but in 2025, that fleeting gesture is no longer a private quirk. It's exactly the kind of action the NFL has declared off limits. This isn't about policing emotion for its own sake. It's about context, consistency, and the league's concentrated effort to sanitize certain imagery from the field. Over the past year, the NFL has signaled it will be unforgiving with celebrations that simulate guns, throat slashes, or other gestures deemed violent or explicitly sexual. Those rules were framed as protecting the game's image, its partners, and a broad audience that includes families and corporate sponsors. In that environment, a star quarterback's finger flick is suddenly a test case, a tiny motion that forces a big question. Will the league enforce its own emphasis, or will elite players get a pass? Let's parse this with some clarity. Josh Allen is a high-intensity competitor whose body language and celebrations are part of his brand. He's reacted to big plays in the past, and his ledger already shows a handful of fines for celebratory conduct. That history matters. For the league office, a repeat offender being caught on camera doing something explicitly on the no-go list is an easy target for discipline. The message is simple and visible. For fans, however, it can feel petty, a small, instinctual reaction blown up into a national story. Both perspectives are emotionally understandable. Both miss the policy reality. The NFL laid down a marker this offseason, and the league office is now obligated to follow through consistently to retain credibility. There are two practical outcomes from a league standpoint. One, the NFL fines Allen. That would be the predictable path. A 5-figure fine, a short press release, and the story quickly folding into the season's noise. It is disruptive but tidy. The league enforces, the player pays, and the teaching moment is visible. Two, the NFL opts not to fine. That route invites accusations of inconsistency. Why fine one player for a gun-like celebration and not another? It gives critics fodder to argue that enforcement is selective and undermines the league's stated commitment to clamp down on these gestures. The precedent is clear. Over recent seasons, several high-profile players received fines for simulated gun celebrations. The NFL's approach has been blunt. Fine, announce, deter. Those fines aren't huge relative to NFL salaries, but they're not trivial either, and they accumulate in the court of public opinion. For athletes who are brands unto themselves, the calculus includes PR risk. A fleeting motion becomes a viral clip, then a headline, then a line in profiles that follow them for months. There's also a human element worth honoring. Players are emotional creatures by design. The game's intensity is part of the theater. Players channel adrenaline into performances that motivate teammates and energize fans. In the heat of the moment, gestures are valves for that pressure. That's not an excuse for language that could legitimize harm, but it does explain why these incidents happen. The league's job is to set standards that reflect social responsibilities while preserving the messy joy of competition. Finding that balance is harder than it sounds. From a team management perspective, the Bills have to decide how publicly to respond, if at all. Teams typically handle these instances quietly. Internal conversations with the player, reminders from coaches about the league's points of emphasis, and a focus on minimizing distractions. Publicly defending a player who crosses an explicit league boundary is risky. Staying silent or offering a short, measured statement about understanding the emotion of the moment while agreeing to abide by league regulations is the usual path. Buffalo will want the narrative to stay on the football, how they beat the Dolphins, what the matchup revealed, and what they need to clean up heading into Week 4. For Allen personally, this is a modest PR inconvenience and a reminder that his actions are magnified. If the NFL fines him, he'll pay and likely move on with a brief statement or none at all. If he isn't fined, the episode still serves as a notice. The world is watching, and the thresholds for acceptable behavior have shifted. Either way, the lesson is consistent. Elite players have to adapt their expressive playbook to a league that is increasingly intolerant of gestures that can be read as violent or threatening. The broader cultural conversation around this issue is more complicated than a single clip can capture. Critics argue the league is sanitizing the sport and stifling player personality. Supporters say the NFL is right to draw boundaries that protect a diverse fan base and corporate partnerships. Both sides have valid points. The practical reality is that leagues with massive global audiences inevitably set broader conduct standards than local or college programs do. There's a trade-off between raw, unscripted emotion and a brand-safe presentation, and the NFL has chosen the latter to a far greater extent this year. What fans should expect next is straightforward. The league will review the tape, the office may consult precedent, and an announcement will follow only if NFL leadership believes enforcement is warranted. The public reaction will then split along familiar lines. Some will say Allen was unfairly targeted, others will see discipline as overdue. The clip will live online regardless, and that's the new permanent record. A brief motion preserved, debated, and judged at scale. This episode won't change Josh Allen's career. It's a footnote compared with playoff runs, MVP votes, or long-term performance. But it matters as a cultural marker. It shows the league serious about its new rules and shows players that the social script around celebration has irrevocably changed. In a sport where image and narrative matter as much as yards and touchdowns, every gesture counts. And in 2025, even a flick of the finger can become a moment the league uses to define itself. Did Josh Allen just flirt with a league fine for a split-second celebration? Late in Buffalo's win over Miami, after taking a hit that drew a penalty, Allen flashed a finger gun toward the Dolphins, a tiny gesture that in 2025 carries outsized consequences. On the play, Allen absorbed contact from linebacker Jordan Brooks, got the call, and celebrated with a quick finger point that looked like a shooter motion. No flag came on the field, but the NFL made clear this offseason that any gun-related or violent-style gestures are a point of emphasis. The league has already fined multiple players, from Drake London to Jamar Chase and Alan Lazard for similar acts within the low five figures. That puts Allen squarely in a known pattern. The league wants these images off broadcasts, and it's enforcing that with cash penalties. This isn't Allen's first run-in with fines. He's been dinged before. Small amounts for throwing the ball into the stands, 2019, flicking the ball at a defender, 2021, and for pointing after a play, 2023. Those past incidents don't automatically change the outcome here, but repeat behavior matters. The NFL is watching for patterns, and public figures aren't getting much leniency on gestures that can be interpreted as promoting violence. Why this matters beyond the money: optics and precedent. The league says it's about safety and public image, discouraging actions that normalize guns or violent displays. Critics argue it sanitizes emotion. Supporters point out broadcasters reach millions, and graphic gestures can inspire imitation. For a superstar like Allen, a short, impulsive celebration becomes a teachable moment about influence. The NFL can issue a fine without a flag, and often does. So the absence of an on-field penalty doesn't guarantee he'll avoid discipline. What could happen next? Expect a review. The NFL typically announces fines publicly and explains the reason. Per reporting, any decision would be released in the coming days. If fined, Allen will likely appeal, a common move. But even a successful appeal doesn't erase the spotlight or the league's message. For the Bills, the bigger issue is distraction. A single fine won't derail a season, but repeated incidents create narratives and can sap focus at inopportune times. Takeaway: pranks and quick gestures look harmless in the moment, but the NFL is enforcing a strict standard on imagery tied to violence. Players have to adapt their celebrations to a rulebook that now treats certain gestures as off-limits, and stars like Josh Allen set the tone for everyone watching. Like, if you think Allen will be fined, comment whether the league's crackdown is fair or overboard, and subscribe for updates as this develops.